They don't wanna see me win. No, they don't wanna see me win. They must be up the pucky way they trippin'. Just tryna get to that money, I ain't saying that. Why they tryna send up back to jail? All I wanna do is get this money and prefer. Police knocking on my door, I don't know what to do. I look like a fool, what they tryna see me do? Body on me, I don't know what I thought.
It's FYF Sportsman, it's Lamont. We back with another podcast episode. We got a lot of things to cover this week. Today we're just gonna kind of narrow it down to one topic. Mainly because of a lot of the stories that I've been seeing floating around out there. As we all know, the NBA season's just starting up. So, maybe there's some things we like about certain teams. After the first one or two games, maybe there's some things we don't like. The one thing that I don't like to do this early in the season is to overreact. And I see a lot of overreaction happening right now after watching the first one or two NBA games for most teams. Before we get started, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell to the show if you have not done so already. We are grinding. All right, getting close to 18K, so we appreciate all the support. Thank you for everybody that are commenting, and sharing all the videos. That small support helps and goes a long way with regards to the YouTube algorithm. Support for today's show is brought to you by Manscaped. Manscaped.com, who's the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision tools for your family jewels. Get 20% off with free shipping with the code FYF Crew at Manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at Manscaped.com. Make sure to use the code FYF Crew. Your balls will thank you. All right, so we're going to go ahead and jump into today's topic. And again, I think I wanted to talk about the Golden State Warriors. And I wanted to talk about the Golden State Warriors because I think it's a really good example of how people panic. People panic early on and start to judge players and teams before they can even find their footing in any given season. All right, the NBA season's considerably a long season, unlike the NFL, where in the NFL with only 16 games, going 0-2 is pretty consequential. It could set you back and it can affect you for the rest of the season. However, in the NBA, when on most normal seasons, when you're playing 82 games, and this year 72 because of the pandemic, going 0-2 or losing 2 games in a row at any given time is not cause for panic. It's never going to be cause for panic. Now, it's cause to make adjustments. It's cause to maybe figure out your players' roles and identities. Maybe there's a culture issue within your team. But at the end of the day, almost every team in the league loses 2 games in a row at any given time. And with the Golden State Warriors, they started the season out with the Brooklyn Nets. That's a championship contending team with Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving. Probably they have the deepest team in the NBA, with Spencer Dinwiddie and Karis LeVert coming off the bench. And the Golden State Warriors took a blowout loss to the Brooklyn Nets. They lost that game 125-99. That game just started off bad. They allowed Brooklyn to score 40 points in the first quarter. That's never going to bode well for an NBA team when you're giving up almost 40 points or more in the first quarter. That's a telltale sign that your defense, you have defensive issues. Maybe guys aren't communicating. Maybe they're just bad matchups. And obviously, whenever you're going against a Kevin Durant-led team, along with the Kyrie Irving, you're going to have matchup issues all over the court. There's nobody in the league that can guard Kevin Durant one-on-one. And when you pair that down with probably another one of the top 1 or 2 one-on-one guys in the NBA with Kyrie Irving, that's a recipe for disaster, especially when you're a young team. The Golden State Warriors are dealing with a lot of problems right now. Not just injuries, But they're bringing new people into the fold. Even though these new people are talented, they're bringing new people into the fold. You have your top draft pick James Wiseman, who did not play any preseason, no training camp, anything. He hasn't really had time to acclimate to the NBA game. The only one who's really kind of looked like himself is Steph Curry. And with Draymond Green out, I don't expect to see what the Warriors are actually going to look like. I would say until mid-season. When they get into mid-season form, then I can start to judge them. But I've been seeing a lot of reports out there from people who are saying, what's wrong with the Warriors? Steve Kerr's exposed. He can't coach. I would say you guys, you just pump the brakes on that right there. Pump the brakes right there, because if the playoffs started tomorrow, if this was a 2-game season and the playoffs start tomorrow and you had to go 2-0, yeah, the Warriors would be in trouble. They have 70 more games, you guys. They have 70 more games, and the first 2 games that they played were against 2 of the top 5 teams in the NBA. All right, the Warriors started the season off playing 2 of the top 5 teams in the NBA. I mean, if the Warriors beat the Nets in that first game, are you guys going to have that same panic response for the Nets saying, "Oh, Steve Nash is a bad coach. He can't coach. He lost the game to the Warriors. Kyrie Irving's exposed." Would you guys have that same panic response? I don't think you would. And the same thing with the Bucks. I mean, the Bucks, they lost their first game. They lost their first game. Giannis Antetokounmpo made some big time major mistakes late game. Even mistakes enough for me to go out as far as say that he has, for a superstar player who's won 2 MVPs, he has some of the worst basketball IQ that I've seen. He made some late game mistakes under 2 minutes in the fourth quarter that just left me thinking, man, if he continues to play like this in the fourth quarter, the Bucks are going to have problems. But at the end of the day, we cannot judge the Bucks off of that one loss. The Bucks came back, they took care of business, they did what they were supposed to do against the Golden State Warriors. Now this game going into halftime, the Warriors didn't let the game get too far out of control for the most part. This game really didn't get blown out of proportion until late in the third, going into the fourth quarter, where Golden State just kind of ran out of gas. I mean, he's having to play Steph Curry a lot of minutes, and I know he's trying to limit Steph Curry's minutes at the same time. But Steph Curry has a lot of pressure right now. He has a lot of pressure right now with regards to helping get guys ready, and not just helping to get guys ready, but acclimating some of the new guys on this roster. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the drawing board because I'm not going to go into panic mode. I'm not going to say that the Warriors made a mistake and Steve Kerr is not a good coach. I think that's irresponsible basketball talk, and I don't think it's very smart to even think like that way, because again, this is research purposes only. The one thing we know right here is I think the Warriors will be fine. They have enough talent on this roster to get to the playoffs. I just think they're just dealing with chemistry issues. They have to figure out roles, and then they have to get healthy. And so I think once you get Draymond Green back in the starting lineup, I think they're going to look like a completely different team. I think once James Wiseman gets into full shape and he's ready to go. Remember, this guy has had no training camp. He's had no preseason. His first NBA game ever stepping foot on the NBA court was against Kevin Durant and the Bucks. I mean that's a tall task for anybody. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down these stats. I'm going to tell you guys the exact reason why the Warriors are struggling and what I think that they can do, going forward to kind of fix some of the issues that they're having. But let's go ahead and go to the drawing board. All right, so we got the drawing board right here. So again, I just wanted to I think the stats kind of tell it all. And the problem that I've been noticing has been consistent in both of their blowout losses. It's been very consistent in both of their blowout losses. So we have the stats here for game one. Obviously, the Warriors lost this game. They were down big early, 125-99. Steph Curry, 7-21 from the field, 2 of 10 from the three-point line. He had 20 points on the day, 10 assists. I mean, Steph Curry played a fairly decent game. He dealt with constant pressure all night. Double teams at some point in times because guys just weren't making shots. And I think for the Golden State Warriors to have success this year, Andrew Wiggins and Kelly Oubre have to be the 20-point per game scorers that we know they are. Kelly Oubre last year averaged 18 points a game. I think 18.6 to be exact. Wiggins is during his time in Minnesota, he's always averaged around 19 to 22 points per game. I think for this team to succeed, those guys are going to have to find a way to get out of these slumps, and they have to find a way to get to their averages. If they get to their averages, this team is going to be extremely hard to guard. But as we saw in that next game, the Nets left players like Wiggins and Oubre wide open, and they wanted to make sure that they were shutting down Steph Curry. So I think a lot of teams are going to say, we'll allow a Wiggins or Oubre to beat us. We don't believe in those guys. Steph Curry's not going to be the guy to beat us. So I think they're going to be hedging a lot on screens. They're going to be doubling down on a lot of screens. They're going to be getting more physical with Steph Curry on pin downs. They're not going to allow him to play comfortably, and as we've seen him be able to do when he had a Kevin Durant, a Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green out there assisting him in that role. So I think teams are saying, we want to see what they can do. We want to see what Wiggins and Oubre and Wiseman can do before we start to respect Steph Curry and start to really have to guard these other guys. So if we look at the stats, this is the stats versus the Nets. We're looking at Andrew Wiggins. He played 31 minutes, 4 of 16 from the field, 2 of 6 from the three-point line. He's not giving you anything with regards to rebounding. He had 2 rebounds, 1 assist, no steals, 1 block, and then he had 4 turnovers. He only had 13 points on the night. So 4 of 16 from the field, that's not going to cut it. Wiggins has to find a way in this offense to be a lot more effective and productive. And again, if he's not scoring the ball, and let's say your shot's not going to be on every night, but if you're not scoring the ball, I think in the NBA you have to find a way to be productive. That means, are you rebounding the ball? Are you setting other guys up? Are you getting assists? Are you getting blocks? Are you forcing turnovers? Or are you creating them? I think Wiggins is going to have to, and Steph Curry was right. After the loss to the Bucks, he had to gather the team together, and he said the season's going to be different. And I think what he meant by that is guys are going to have to grow up. Guys got to grow up fast. Guys got to learn how to fill in their roles. Wiggins cannot allow his scoring to dictate his effort defensively, because Wiggins was getting blown by, especially in that Nets game with guys like Karis LeVert, Spencer Dinwiddie, guys that he should easily be able to match up with. They were blowing by him, getting to the rim with ease. I think that's Wiggins. Every time Wiggins misses a shot, you see the guy put his head down, and you could tell it's affecting his demeanor. When you play like that, and when you allow your offense to affect that effort that you give on the defensive end of the court, I think that's something that Kerr needs to address. And again, it's not something where we need to panic. Again, they're just 0-2, you guys. They played two teams that could potentially find themselves in the NBA Finals. The Bucks could be in the finals. The Nets could be in the finals. The Nets look great right now. One of the deepest teams in the league. Let's pump the brakes. Let's not jump to any conclusions. The Warriors are fine. They still have a solid roster. Another thing that bothered me was Looney. Kevin Looney looks like he's gained weight. Looks a little bit slower. Looks a little bit out of shape. Now, he was already a slower player, so now it looks as if he's put on weight. So he looks slower and less athletic. He's struggling to finish at the rim. And this game right here, he only played 11 minutes. But again, it just nothing he did looked very effective, and it looked like all guys really need to do to stop him on offense is just to wall up and not foul, and you can stop him at the rim. Now, Wiseman's numbers in this game were a bit deceptive. He was 7 of 13 from the floor with 19 points, 6 rebounds. That's decent to me. We got to understand, this is James Wiseman's first NBA action ever. All right, the last time we saw James Wiseman on the court was in Memphis when he was playing Division II schools to start the season off at Memphis before the NCAA suspended him. Prior to that, he was playing guys in high school. James Wiseman has not had any NBA games under his belt. All right, so he struggled the first half. We didn't see James Wiseman kind of unleashed until the game was out of control. So a lot of those points that he amassed were in garbage time when the game was out of reach. But it was good to see that Steve Kerr was allowing him to stay in the game, to get his rhythm, to get his conditioning, so he could. So and again, this is all going to bode well for the Warriors going down the line. But this is a tough loss right here. I mean, there's a lot that you can learn. I think Eric Pascal, because there were a lot of people out there saying Eric Pascal, he scored 15 points per game last year. He had a fairly decent season. And a lot of people were saying, oh, Draymond, you got Eric Pascal. Now we see that Eric Pascal's not ready for that starting position. But he struggled mightily. He's looked nervous. Every time he touches the ball, he looks like he's playing hot potato with the basketball, because as soon as he touches it, he's looking to pass it to somebody else immediately. He doesn't look like he's comfortable out there in that starting position. As of right now, he looks to be more like a reserve guy that can come in and give the starter some release. But in that, he does not look like a starter. He doesn't play like a starter. He's not even playing with the confidence of a starter. And that's unfortunate for a guy that talented right there. So we see that Eric Pascal's just not ready for that starting position, but he's been thrust into that role due to the injury of Draymond Green. I think we will see Draymond Green in their next game back against the Bulls. Maybe we'll see a different Golden State team at that point in time. But as it stands right now, Eric Pascal's just struggling in that starting lineup. What we're going to do is, so in this game right here is indicative of the Warriors' problems. When Kelly Oubre and Andrew Wiggins, if both of them, and we don't need both of them to be on fire every game. We just need one of those guys to be on fire. And then we need these guys to be productive when their shots are not falling. If we get in this game right here, if we look at Kelly Oubre, 0 of 6 from the 3-point line, 3 of 14 from the field. 3 of 14 from the field, Kelly Oubre. Okay, that's fine. And I'm not even gonna be mad at the 3 of 14 from the field or the 0 of 6 from the 3-point line, because I like the fact that he's shooting them. Last year, Kelly Oubre shot, I think, close to 40% from the 3-point line. So you can't be mad at him for taking those shots. We know he can make those shots. The shots will eventually fall. I like the 7 rebounds, but only 2 assists and 1 steal. Kelly Oubre, if you're not giving anything on offense, you have to find a way to be more productive on the offensive end of the court. And for most of this game, when Kelly Oubre was out there, he wasn't getting any stops. He wasn't doing anything defensively. Yes, early on in the game, he had the great putback dunk over Kevin Durant. He gives a lot of energy, but it gets to a point in time, just like Steph Curry said, it's different. We got to grow up. We got to go out and win games. We can't just play with high energy, and we got to play smarter. All right, we got to find a way. We got to find a way to play through all of the misses. Even if you're able to go in and go get offensive rebounds, and you got to find a way to get yourself going. If you're Wiggins and Oubre, you have to be smarter NBA players. James Wiseman, again, I expect a lot of growing pains, especially early on in the season, but they have to find a way to be more productive so that Steph Curry can be Steph Curry. All right, and I think the same thing is, and there were similar issues in the Bucks game. Let's go over to the Bucks games. And so here's the Bucks game right here. Now they lost this game 138-99. Again, if I'm Steve Kerr right here, I'm not focusing on the score. I'm focusing on some of the problems that I see in the stat lines here. All right, so when we go back to Wiggins, 6 of 18, 0 of 4 from the 3-point line, only 12 points in 25 minutes. Kelly Oubre, another terrible shooting night. 1 of 10 from the field, 0 of 5 from the 3-point line. 3 points on the night. And then when we look at everything else that they did on the court, combined, Wiggins and Oubre only had 11 rebounds. Combined, they only had 1 assist. Combined, they only had 2 steals. Combined, they had 0 blocks. All right, these are two players combined you have invested over $200 million in. These two guys got to find a way to grow up and be real NBA players really fast. Wiggins has gotten a pass for a long time. In Minnesota, the owner down there gave him the contract that he wanted and said, you got to step up and be the guy that we need you to be. He's failed to step up. 6 of 18 from the field. And it's not like, when we're looking at Wiggins and Oubre, when we're looking at their field goal percentage, it's not like they're shooting tough shots like Steph Curry's shooting. They're not. These guys are missing wide open threes and jumpers because the teams are committing to doubling down on Steph, and they will allow Wiggins or Oubre to beat them. And I would continue that strategy. If I'm the Bulls, I'm going to continue with the same strategy. I'm going to double Curry every chance that I get. I'm going to make it hard on Curry, and I'm going to allow Oubre and Wiggins to take those long jumpers and those 3-point shots. Until they start falling, you have to go with that strategy. And I think the onus is on Kelly Oubre and Wiggins to be better. Combined, in this Bucks game, they only have 15 points. All right, now Wiseman, again, the numbers got a little bit better. It looks as if he's starting to find himself. Wiseman's starting to get more consistent. 3 or 4 from the 3-point line, 5-11 from the field in 25 minutes. So he had 18 points. I think he started the game off with 7. Again, we're starting to see the versatility of James Wiseman. He's starting to come out of his shell. As he opens up, we're going to see more and more of that. Again, we got Kevin Looney, another poor performance, 2 points in 11 minutes. And some of these guys on the bench, again, that you don't expect much from. Kent Bazemore has been a disappointment in both of the games. I expected a little bit more from him. Jordan Poole has just kind of looked frenetic out there, as if he's playing nervous, like he's playing too fast for his own good, and he's making a lot of mistakes. Brad Wanamaker has been exactly who I thought he would be, that calming force that's going to come out there and slow the young guys down, help them get easy buckets. But that's a tough assignment when you really don't have much to work with off that bench. Damian Lee, again, I expected him to take another leap this year. I expect him to take another leap just based off his performance from last year. I haven't seen that yet. So, again, I don't know if it's rust or I don't know. But I was really hoping that he could take another leap. Marquise Chris, obviously he's playing these reserve minutes behind Wiseman. And his minutes are further going to drop once Draymond Green comes back. But, again, he hasn't looked bad coming off the bench. He looks active. He's made a few mistakes defensively, but that's what we can expect from Marquise Chris. He's been like that his whole career, but when he's hot, he's hot. So their bench and Wiggins and Oubre are going to be the 2 things that determine the Warriors' fate for this year. And again, I'm not going to be the one to panic after 2 games. I don't see Kelly Oubre continuing to shoot this bad from the field. I mean, the man averaged 18 points a game for a whole season last year, on 40% from the field, and 40% from the 3-point line. I know the man can shoot the ball. All right, so I don't know if it's the offense or whatever, but we know what this man can do. We saw what he did in Washington. We saw what he did in Phoenix. We know he can do the same thing in Golden State, if not at a higher level. These guys just got to wake up and play their game. So overall, I mean, when we look at this Bucks game right here, the Warriors shot 34% from the field. That's extremely bad. And then they shot 22% from the 3-point line. And so I think a lot of us, we remember the Warriors of old when they had Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson. They had, Andre Iguodala coming off the bench. I'm talking about they had elite snipers everywhere. So we're used to seeing the Warriors. Be great from the 3-point line, and just these first 2 games have everybody in a panic. But that's one thing I would really have to look at: the 10 of 45 from the 3-point line. Now look, do I see them playing this bad for a whole year? No. But again, when your team is shooting that bad from the 3-point line, there's 1 or 2 things you can tell your team. You can say, keep shooting, we know they're going to fall. Or you can say, look, we got to get to the rim and get easy baskets before we start chucking up threes. There's only 1 or 2 things that you can do. And only Steve Kerr knows his team well enough to know what he can continue to tell them. He knows his offense. If his offense is generating enough open threes to where he can tell them to continue to shoot through it, then I'm sure that they'll shoot through it. But we saw that a lot of these threes that they were taking were wide open. Even if we go back to the first game, their field goal percentage, 30% from the 3-point line, 10 to 33 from the 3-point line against the Nets. I mean, you're never going to win shooting that poorly. And then as a team, you're shooting under 40% from the field. I mean, this is a recipe for disaster. I mean, this happens sometimes. It definitely does happen sometimes, and it happens in spurts and stretches in NBA. Sometimes when you're playing bad, you're just having a bad spell, and you got to play through it. But what I want you guys to do is I really want everyone to hold off on passing judgment on the Golden State Warriors just yet, because I think they're still a really good team. I think they just ran into 2 buzzsaws. The Bucks just kind of outmatched them, even though they did play them close for the first 2 quarters. And then the Nets just have far too much firepower. And none of us really knew what the Nets had until we actually saw them in action. None of us knew if Kevin Durant was going to be the same Kevin Durant. None of us knew how Kyrie would come out playing, after all of the stuff in the media that's been going on throughout the summer and the fall. But now that we see what they have, now that you can game plan against them, now that you've seen how this team is going to start guys and how they're going to be subbing guys in, I think that kind of changes the game plan up. So the NBA, it's a long season. My prediction for the Golden State Warriors is that they will get close to 40 wins. I think they'll be a 40-win team this year once they figure it out. James Wiseman looks like he's a great young player in this league. He's going to be fine, and I think we'll start to see, after a few days of rest, a few days of practice, when we see them get back on the court against the Chicago Bulls, I think we'll see a different Warriors team. And if we look at their next stretch of games, their next stretch of games is going to give them some relief. They actually go out there and let some people figure themselves out, because they play on Sunday, they play Chicago, they follow that up with Detroit, then they play Portland back-to-back, and then they play Sacramento. All right, that's 5 games right there. That's going to be great for the young guys. It's going to be great for everybody to find their rhythm. These are again, you're not playing the upper echelon. Sometimes you need these games to help your team find his rhythm, and then the true test, one of the better tests we will see, is back-to-back game against the Clippers. And then you have Toronto, Indiana, Denver, and Phoenix. Now that's going to be a tough stretch of games. So they have a more relaxed schedule over the next 5 games, but those next 6 games are going to be pretty tough. Clippers twice, Indiana, Toronto, Denver, Phoenix, and then the Lakers. So that's going to be a tough stretch right there. So once that's a much bigger sample size, and then that will take us into the mid-January. So once we see that, then we'll have a better idea of who the Golden State Warriors are and if these guys can figure themselves out. But hopefully they can get it figured out. I just think guys like Kelly Oubre and Wiggins, you cannot allow your offense to affect your defense. You guys are playing poorly on offense right now, and it's affecting your defense, and they're not just affected because you guys are starters, Oubre and Wiggins, because those guys are starters. When they allow their scoring to affect the defense or how they play defense, unlike in the past, you are now an integral part of this team. What you do has a bigger impact on wins and losses, as opposed to Oubre with Phoenix last year, where you had Devin Booker and Ayton, as opposed to Andrew Wiggins, where he was in a situation where nobody expected Minnesota to win. And you had Karl Anthony Towns over there carrying the brunt of the workload every night. All right, so things are different now. We need to see. We want to see how players react when winning is the standard. All right, these 2 guys haven't been on teams where winning is the standard. In Golden State, winning is the standard. So these guys got to be better. They got to be different. So I look to reevaluate the Warriors later on in the year, maybe towards the end of January. We'll see where they are then. But as it stands right now, obviously they're trending downward. There's a lot of things that they need to work on. But, I mean, there are a few positives that you can take out of it as well, because I would much rather in the NBA, I would much rather struggle early than struggle late in the season. So get through the growing pains with your young guys now. Help guys clarify and find their roles on this team. And I think the Golden State Warriors will be fine. Anyway, it's been a great podcast video. Hope you guys enjoyed my take on the Golden State Warriors. You guys, if you're in the live comments right now on this premiere video, let me know what you think about the Warriors. All right, because there's a few other teams that I want to break down as well. We're going to be doing a breakdown of Giannis Antetokounmpo later this week, so we got to touch on him. I just think that for them to be able to win the championship, he has to find a way to be smarter going into the fourth quarter. He cannot be that same. He cannot make those mistakes like he did in the first game of the season. That's going to cost them. So we're going to be doing a video on that later. We got a lot to come this week. We had a lot of live streams. We're going to get back to doing that. I know we took a couple of days off from the live streams over the holiday, so I hope you guys had a great holiday break. We're going to get back into the mix of things here at FYF Sports. And as we do, we're going to be bringing all the sports news. All right, but hey, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell to the video if you haven't done so already. We're grinding to 18K. Appreciate all the support for the channel. Make sure you guys, if you haven't done so, make sure you go check out manscaped.com for your men's below-the-waist grooming products. Remember, don't forget to use that coupon code FYFCREW for 20% off your order total and free shipping. Hey, but it's FYF Sports, man. It's been a great podcast episode. And
oh, you gangsters think you tough, knowing you ain't bout that life. Okay, now we call your bluff, this time that you pay the price. Oh, you scared, huh? Police bout to read them rights. I don't wanna go to jail, man, might not get no bail, man. You gangsters think you tough until them rollers pull them cuffs. Okay, now we call your bluff, you just be talking all that stuff. Oh, you a big dog, huh? Cut it out, boy, not even close. I don't wanna go to jail, man, I'm broke, can't get no bail, man.